I found this story where it shouldn't have been, and once you hear it, it doesn't let go. The Briarline Motel didn't have a room 0. That's what the key rack said, what the fire escape plan said, what the faded brochure on the counter swore in bold ink. Rooms 1 through 49, nothing more. And yet my first night on the job, the booking screen flickered like it was trying to remember something it had promised to forget. OO paid, do not disturb. I stared until my eyes watered. Then the rain hit the windows hard enough to sound like knuckles. Not peaceful rain, not cozy rain, rain that knocked like it wanted in. Written by Mr. D. Like, share, and subscribe to Bloody Chapter for more stories that haunt the mind long after the sound fades. Because that night, the motel learned my name. At 12:41 a.m., room 17 called, a woman's voice thin as paper. I'm sorry. I know it's late, but someone keeps knocking. I checked the hallway camera. Empty. Outside your door, I asked, and she whispered, no, inside the bathroom wall. I laughed, just a reflex. Camera blinked, like a heartbeat skipping. I asked, are you actually alone? And after a pause that felt too long, she said, I was. I grabbed the master key and my flashlight, and I don't know why, but I started recording audio on my phone. Like my body knew my brain was going to lie about this later. The corridor smelled colder than the lobby. Wet carpet, old smoke, the faint metallic bite of the vending machine. When the woman opened her door, her hair was damp like she'd been standing in rain, but her shoes were dry. Listen, she said, and we stood there, waiting. At first it was only the heater hiss and the rain on the glass. Suddenly, 3 knocks, not from the outside, from behind the bathroom wall. Close, intimate, like someone tapping from the inside of a coffin. The woman gripped my sleeve so hard my skin pinched. I leaned toward the bathroom door, and through the crack I saw the mirror, fogged, as if someone had breathed against it. And my trainer's voice crawled up my spine from earlier. Mr. Harlan, the manager, stern and tired, repeating his one rule like a prayer. On storm nights, no mirrors after midnight. I didn't open the bathroom door. I offered to move her to another room. No way. It totally follows, she gasped. It followed me the moment I checked in. And then she said something that chilled me more than the knocks. The wall doesn't knock first. It listens first. Back at the desk, I rewound my recording. The knocks were there, clear. But between the second and third set, a voice slipped through the hiss. Low, wet, like speaking through cloth soaked in rain. It said my name, sounded just like me. I paused the audio and stared at the dark lobby window, half expecting my reflection to move on its own. At 2:13 a.m., the hallway camera flickered again, the picture smearing into static, then clearing just enough to show a figure stepping out from behind the vending machine at the far end of the corridor. They moved really weird, super stiff, clothes dripping like they'd climbed out of a river. Their face blurred, not from motion, but like rain on a windshield. And they swiped a key card against a door that wasn't supposed to exist. A blank stretch of wallpaper beside the vending machine. The door opened anyway. Darkness inside like a mouth. The figure stepped through, and the wall looked solid again. I ran down the hall, my footsteps swallowed by carpet that felt damp under my shoes. I pressed my palm to the wallpaper where the door had been. Smooth, seamless. Leaned in, okay. Heard 3 knocks inside, then a whisper right against the wall. You shouldn't have taken the job. I staggered back, heart hammering, and when I turned, Mr. Harlan was standing at the other end of the corridor like he'd been waiting for me to arrive at the truth. He held out a guest card, neat letters. Room 00. Check-in tomorrow. Name Mr. D. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like gravity doubled. Harlan's eyes didn't blink. Storm nights, he said softly. The motel fills vacancies. And the rain outside knocked harder, like it approved. And somewhere behind the wallpaper, something knocked back. I didn't go home after my shift. I sat behind the desk until dawn, watching the cameras and replaying that audio until my own voice saying my own name stopped sounding impossible and started sounding inevitable. When Harlan arrived in the afternoon, he didn't ask why I looked sick. He only slid a new key sleeve across the counter like a man passing a sentence. "If you're on the screen," he said, "you're already booked." I told him I wanted to see it. I wanted to see room 0 with my eyes, not the motel's broken cameras. And he stared at me the way you stare at someone stepping onto thin ice. "Fine," he said, "but listen carefully. Storms don't create room 0. Storms reveal it." The rain came back that night, heavier, meaner, like the sky was pouring out a secret. At 11:58 p.m., Harlan turned the lobby mirror toward the wall and covered it with a towel. "No mirrors after midnight," he repeated. "Not even a glance. Not even by accident." Then he handed me a room key sleeve labeled 00. It felt warm, like someone else had just held it. "You're checking in," he said, like this was normal. "If you don't, it'll check you in anyway." I told myself this was a prank, an initiation, some rotten motel tradition. But when I walked down the corridor, the air thickened. The vending machine hum grew louder, then quieter, as if it was breathing. I stopped beside the wallpaper where I'd seen the door. Nothing. Smooth. Dead wall. And then 3 knocks. Right behind it. Steady. Patient. I raised the key card with shaking fingers. I swiped the card. Wall just opened. Like it had been waiting for the correct permission to stop pretending. Inside was a narrow hallway that shouldn't fit inside the building. The wallpaper was darker. The carpet smelled like wet pennies. And the sound of rain was everywhere, even though there were no windows. As if the rain lived in here. Halfway down, a sign hung crooked, room 00, and beneath it, a metal door with no peephole. I should have run. But something in me moved forward the way people move toward their own name when it is called in a crowd. I entered. The room looked like every cheap motel room. Bed, lamp, TV. Except the TV was on, showing the hallway camera feed. And on that feed, I could see myself standing in room 0, staring at the screen. A loop inside a loop. I turned away fast, and my eyes caught the bathroom mirror. I felt my stomach twist. I remembered the rule. I kept my gaze low, but the mirror still reflected movement. Not mine. A shape behind me. Too tall. Too still. I totally spun around, saw absolutely nothing, only the room as stale cold and the constant soft drumming sound like rain on a roof that wasn't there. Then my phone buzzed. A voicemail. From an unknown number. I pressed play without thinking, and my own voice whispered into my ear, soaked and muffled like it was coming through a wall. "Don't open the door when you hear yourself knock." I froze. And right then, from inside the bathroom wall, 3 knocks. The exact rhythm I'd heard in room 17. The wall wasn't just knocking. It was repeating like a creepy old recording. The lamp flickered. The TV feed stuttered. And on screen, the hallway outside room 0 showed a person approaching, dripping, face blurred by a moving sheen like water. They stopped at the door, raised a hand, and knocked 3 times, and I realized the sound wasn't coming from the wall anymore. It was coming from my own door. I totally froze, couldn't even breathe. Then the handle turned anyway, and the door opened a few inches, just enough for cold air and the smell of wet earth to slip in. But no one stood there, only a shadow where a body should be, and that shadow leaned forward as if it had weight, as if darkness could breathe. The bathroom mirror fogged in one slow bloom, like someone exhaled onto it from the inside, and a message formed in the steam. Not letters at first, just a smear, then clearer, "Stop renting me out." I backed away until my calves hit the bed. The TV feed snapped to a different camera, the lobby, and I watched myself behind the front desk, smiling, talking to someone I couldn't see, taking cash, giving out room 0's key, and the worst part wasn't that it looked like me. I looked practiced, like I'd done it. The door behind me clicked shut, and from inside the bathroom wall, my own voice whispered again, closer now, "You're the vacancy." I ran at 2:59 a.m. because something about that number felt like a trap being set. I shoved the door, expecting the hallway, but I stumbled into the regular corridor, the vending machine buzzing like nothing had happened. And when I looked back, the door was gone again, just wallpaper. Clean, innocent, like the motel was gaslighting me in real time. I sprinted to the lobby. Harlan was there with a thermos of coffee, calm as a man watching a storm from behind thick glass. I slammed my phone on the counter and demanded answers. And he didn't deny anything. He just sighed, opened a drawer, and pulled out a ledger so old its pages curled like dried leaves. "This," he said, "is why Briarline stays open." The ledger wasn't bookings. It was absences, names, dates, small towns nearby, people who were never reported missing because someone paid to make sure nobody looked. Runaway teens, undocumented travelers, addicts, husbands who left, wives who went back home. Harlan tapped a column labeled 0. "Room 0 holds the ones who don't exist on paper," he said. "It stores them until the storm washes the world clean enough to forget them." I whispered, "Who pays?" And he answered without pride, without shame, "People who need problems to disappear." He showed me a second folder, paid notices, receipts, familiar names, city officials, a deputy, a businessman who donated to the local shelter, the same shelter that kept losing residents after heavy rain. My skin prickled, because this wasn't just supernatural. This was crime, corruption, evil wearing a normal face. I told Harlan I was calling the police, and he didn't stop me. He just looked at the clock. 3:16 a.m. "Call if you want," he murmured. But storms change what the police believe. The lobby lights dimmed, just a breath, and the front window became a mirror, reflecting me as a second person. And behind that reflection, someone else, tall, dripping, face smeared like wet ink. The desk phone rang. Room 17 again, but the display didn't read 17. It read 00. I picked up with shaking hands, and my own voice spoke softly into the receiver, intimate as a thought. You can't report what you helped hide. I slammed the phone down and backed away. Harlan opened the office door and pointed toward the maintenance corridor. If you want proof, he said, follow the sound. I pushed through the maintenance hallway, past stacked towels and a broken ice machine, down to a metal door with a rusted sign, stormwater access. And behind it, the rain was louder than outside. I descended concrete steps slick with moisture until the air turned cold and mineral. And there, in the tunnel, I saw them. Not bodies, not ghosts, people, sitting or standing in the dimness like figures in a paused photograph. Eyes open but unfocused, breathing shallow, as if they were being kept in a waiting room between existence and paperwork. And the walls were lined with mirrors, hundreds of them, cracked, fogged, some clean as glass, some filmed with moisture like they'd just been breathed on. And in every mirror, I saw not one reflection, but two, me, and the tall dripping blur behind me, always a step closer than it should be. The tunnel light flickered and I heard the knocking. Not 3 knocks now, a whole pattern, a code, and I realized it wasn't coming from one wall. It was coming from every mirror at once, a chorus of knuckles in glass, and then footsteps behind me, slow, wet. I spun and saw a figure emerging from the darkness, and as it drew nearer, the blur resolved into something worse than a monster. It resolved into me, wearing my face like a mask slightly misaligned, eyes too calm, smile too practiced. It raised a hand and knocked 3 times on the air between us, and the sound landed inside my skull. Vacancy filled, it whispered, and the mirrors all fogged at once, like the whole tunnel exhaled. I stumbled back up the stairs, lungs burning, and burst into the lobby. And the lobby was different. The neon sign outside read a different name. The key rack had 1 more slot, 0. And behind the counter, Harlan was gone, replaced by a younger man who looked up at me like I was the new hire. You must be the night auditor, he said cheerfully. Storm's bad tonight, huh? Then he slid a guest sleeve across the counter. Room 00, paid, do not disturb, and the name printed on it wasn't mine. It was yours, Mr. D. I stared at it, throat tight, and from somewhere behind the wall beside the vending machine, 3 knocks answered the rain. Like, share, and subscribe to Bloody Chapter for more stories that haunt the mind long after the sound fades. And thanks for watching. Because if you ever see a room number that shouldn't exist, don't stop to ask why. Just keep driving, and whatever you do, don't look in the mirror after midnight.